Hello, this is Francis from McCaffrey Crafts, and I actually finished 5 walking sticks today. So rather than wait till Wednesday to upload these guys, I thought, sure, just throw them online today. And hopefully I should have about another maybe 20 more sticks, I'd say, by Wednesday. So here, another nice stick. I kind of left the natural bark on this. It kind of just speeds up the process when I don't have to, do like a black coating on the shaft there. So these are all kind of natural bark walking sticks, which have been finished to perfection as well, and they're not painted black like some of the other sticks I have. So yeah, like with these sticks, they're a bit quicker to finish because I don't have to put on the few coats of black on it as well, and just apply the finish. And they look quite nice. They're quite rustic, and these sticks are very popular as well. They actually sell pretty good. This one, you can see here, like you just leave a little angle that just kind of just grooves into your hand, and these bits at the front are kind of good for gripping around, to give a little grip, especially on these kind of slightly smaller hand stick. You want to make sure there's like a groove there that kind of just fits into your hand, and because they're kind of smaller, it's good you can kind of fit your hand around and grip it. And even though these have like a kind of small handle, they actually feel quite good with most hand types. Here's the same type of principle as well. Like, here you have a small stick, and if you cut it there, it's not going to look too good. But when you have this little groove here and you just taper it a bit in here, it just makes the grip quite comfortable in the hand. So even like you might see this and you say, I'm not sure if I can make a stick out of that. But if you think about like how the shape of your hand is, like, if you look at your hand, and see the different grooves and stuff into your hand, and you kind of figure out on the wood, will that like fit nicely into hand? And you see like how there's like a little bump here, and then you just kind of curve it in here, and like it just fits in. If you can really see the grip on it, it just fits in comfortably into your hand. So when you're putting pressure on it, the inside, like this part, sorry, it's just hard to hold and do everything at the same time. But there's just little things like that you can kind of do in the wood. Like, you see a picture of that and you're not sure about it, but like the idea is that like there's little parts of the natural wood that fit into your hand quite comfortably. So like it's kind of like you might just see that picture and say, I'm not sure about that stick. But when you can see it from all angles, and you realize like the thought process that goes into it, and how you're always trying to figure out sticks that have handles that are comfortable to hold as well. Here the principle is the same. You see how it like grooves in here, and you groove it in here, you fit into your hand. So I thought it'd be interesting. Look, like those 3 sticks, they have that basic principle where there's a groove here and you just groove it in, and it just fits in nicely to that part of the hand. So like that was the kind of thinking behind those three handles as well. This one is kind of similar, that you don't have that like kind of little double groove, but it's the same type of principle but slightly different from the rest of them, and it fits in quite comfortably as well into the hand. This one would go probably for a slightly bigger hand than myself. It's quite comfortable. Here I'd say it's about 7/8 an inch. And it kind of tapers down probably to about 3/4 round the bottom. Like, they're all quite straight. Like, if you imagine like these sticks are pretty bendy when you get them, and you have to straighten them as well. But I kind of do like kind of explaining and talking through like the thought process on these handles, because you see that stick, you mightn't be too sure, but like you're always like, when you're making a walking stick out of a 1-piece stick, you have to think about how it kind of curves into the hand. And if you're using like the natural features of the wood, like there's a resting place here, there's a bump here, and you understand how it is the hand is shaped, and you try to find sticks that would fit well into your hand as opposed to a stick that doesn't. Like, sometimes you can see a stick that looks really cool, but like when you hold it, it just doesn't work at all. And here again, the principle is kind of a little bit similar. A bit like those first 3 are good examples, like just to show on camera. Here the same principle is, but it's kind of harder to see. There's just a little groove and then grooves in again. You see how it works. So you have this little groove, and then you make another groove here as well, and usually that goes into the groove of your palm, which is like, wait, I'll use this to kind of demonstrate. Into, you see where the top of the tape is, like that part of your hand you're kind of aiming for when you're doing this. I'll make a better video explaining these kind of grips as well, but you have to understand, so important like in stick making, is how a hand is shaped. Like, you know, it's kind of important as well, like that these fingers can kind of wrap around something or rest on something. You have to figure out, you know, the center of gravity as well. Like sometimes when you're bending a stick, you can leave a little curve here, and I'll explain that because like when you have a stick and you're putting pressure on here, a little bend there, especially on a stick, it can kind of take the pressure, because like when you put on that and there's a little groove here, but the groove there is bending away like here, it actually adds way better balance to a stick. There's actually a lot in that too, that sometimes when you're making a stick that is like a knob stick, like here the center of gravity is right here, which is right down the center of the shaft. But sometimes if you have a handle that comes way out here and you're holding it like down here and you're putting loads of pressure on it, then what happens on a thinner stick, if you don't have the center of gravity, like you say if the stick is really dead straight and you have like a big root ball here type of thing, and you're putting pressure on it like there, then the center of gravity is going to be off. So you wouldn't really want to have it like totally straight. You have to put like a little bend here near the top to allow for the pressure that's being put on the stick. So there's I haven't even touched on that yet. Like the thing is, there's so much into stick making and so much into that a lot of people kind of don't understand. You know, like the whole thought process, I've only barely scraped the surface of it in terms of like these walking sticks. You know, and like even there's little grooves that you can put along the stick along the way that will help with the center of gravity. You know, there's so much in it, and someday when I get a chance, I'll do a proper like online course. I actually have an outline of a whole teaching type program that all I need is about 3 to 6 months to sit down and do properly, if things ever get quiet. But there's look, every now and again when I have something in mind, if I find a stick with a good example of it, and here were a bunch of sticks today that I could kind of just explain that kind of like, you know, you mightn't understand when you see a stick that looks like that. Why is it here and why is it groove in here? There's thought behind it. It's not just cut randomly and it's just there for no reason. Like, you know, there's a whole thought process in it. And like most decent stick makers, like, you know, they study the hand, they understand what the hand looks like, where you're going to be putting pressure, and you know, like there's different sticks that work pretty better. Like knob sticks kind of are pretty popular because no matter your hand type, it kind of fits in quite nicely into the palm of your hand. But like with these kind of sticks as well, like they're all quite unique. And again, if you're looking for something that there's a deep process in, there's a whole thought process, like every part of the stick is there for a reason. Like, you know, if there's something like a little groove or a little thing here, or the way that you shape the handle, it's all done for a particular reason. And I thought it's just sometimes to give you a kind of insight into the mind of a shillelagh maker, of you know, how he approaches this. You know, like my favorite part of stick making is you know, the handles, trying to figure out the handles from finding them in the wild to, well, like when I see these sticks in the wild, I just have an eye for spotting. I can say, oh, I know how that's going to fit in the hand. You just know from experience. And it's all, that's like so important. Like that's the most important part. It's like when you're out cutting the wood and you're seeing this, like many guys will just see that piece growing, say this piece, they'll see it growing in the wild and says, there's no real handle in that, can't do nothing with that, and they just leave it. While an experienced stick maker like me can say, that's got here and it grooves in, and there's a little groove here, and this can you know, it can be used for hanging up. You know, it's, if you understand, like what a very important part of the stick making process is, you know, when you're cutting, you have to cut with this kind of visual of how the handle is going to look and what you're going to do. And if you kind of like think backwards, like most people, they go and they see like a long thin stick, or they see a long thick one, they go, I'm just cutting that'll be a good stick, that'll be a good stick. But to be honest, half the time, sometimes that the handles don't work with those sticks, or sometimes they're going to be way too heavy as well. So like, you know, you have to visualize the final product as you're cutting the sticks, and then you kind of can see sticks that others probably would disregard, say, there's no stick in that, you're never going to make a walking stick in that. And you know, if you can kind of visualize that a bit more, you can literally cut more. You can make use of more blackthorn as well, and it proves pretty good in the long run. So there you have it, a bit of a kind of like, you know, deep dive into the mind of a stick maker. Thanks for watching anyway. Bye bye.